business is unpredictable, but with the right insurance, you can face the unexpected with confidence. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we protect what matters most: your people, your property, and your future. Whether it's liability, property, or workers' comp, we tailor coverage to fit your business needs. Because when you're covered, you can focus on what really matters: growing your business. Call us today for a free quote at 1-855-887-5656 or visit us at nwagencies.com. Northwest Insurance Agency, protection that works as hard as you do.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let we go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I am Billy Embody. Thanks for joining us. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to everyone, probably except for Bryson DeChambeau, who had a really tough Sunday at Augusta National, falling down the leaderboard instead of claiming that green jacket. So he'll be back to give it another go next year. But congratulations to Rory McIlroy. It's big for golf for him to win. Not a huge Rory guy, but congratulations to him. Obviously a huge moment in the making. 11 years, like you said, 14 years really after he blew that 4-shot lead 14 years ago to have quite the dramatic finish on Sunday. But hey, we are here to talk SMU. Of course, we're presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency. So thanks to Mark Villasana for being such a huge supporter of this podcast. Reach out to him today. I was just talking with somebody over the weekend who said, hey, I need to reach out to Mark, talk to him about insurance. I said, yeah, well, let's just do it over a beer or over lunch or whatever. We'll talk some SMU football as well. So Mark Villasana there for you, Northwest Insurance Agency. We do have a massive announcement, though, for the show. We do have a new sponsor, but this one comes with some perks as well. So do want to give it up to our newest sponsor, Manny's Tex-Mex. Those of you who are familiar with Manny's Tex-Mex and their decades of incredible food will be pumped about this one. And I can tell you, we have a special discount for you guys to mention when you go to Manny's Tex-Mex, okay? This is all 4 locations across DFW. You're going to learn it. You're going to know it well. Queso. When you talk with your server about your bill, you get 10% off your Manny's Tex-Mex meal, okay? That's dine-in and carry-out. It doesn't include third-party apps. It excludes alcohol per laws, but that is still a pretty cool deal. 10% off your meal when you say to your waiter or waitress, queso. So everybody say it with me, queso next time you're at Manny's Tex-Mex. Got the location there on Mockingbird. You've also got Coit and Campbell. They're in Heath and they're in Saxe. Been to Coit and Campbell, been to Lakewood, been to Saxe. Looking forward to getting over to Heath soon to enjoy it over there. Pretty cool area as well over there at their Heath location for what they were telling me as well. So look, when we talk about Tex-Mex, we often talk about Cinco de Mayo. It's a great spot. You can go just about anywhere, but I can tell you the place to be is Manny's Tex-Mex on Cinco de Mayo. We're going to have a big event at the Lakewood location on Mockingbird. Of course, that is May 5th for those of you who are that far behind on your Spanish lessons. But we're going to have a big event, so stay tuned for more details on that. Of course, they'll have specials that day on Cinco de Mayo. But Manny's Tex-Mex, welcome to the On the Pony Express family. And remember everyone, queso gets you 10% off your meal at Manny's Tex-Mex. So looking forward to many years of partnership with Manny's. They've been a place that I've always enjoyed going to back when they had their Uptown location. I remember doing an event, going to an event when Tom Mason was the interim head coach at SMU. So it's been around a while. They make great stuff. Everything's fresh, made in-house. So awesome. Manny's Tex-Mex, thank you and welcome to the fam. All right, now, with all of the big announcements out of the way, of course, talk a little Masters, but we do have SMU spring football to talk about. And the spring football game or showcase or private event is just a couple weeks away, as Hayden Howerton and I were talking about on last week's golf pod. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I think the sound came out pretty good. as well. We didn't have too much wind. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Would love your feedback on that. But look, the thing with the spring game now, I'm going to call it a spring game because I'm just otherwise going to be correcting myself over and over again. But it is a private showcase for season ticket holders on the 25th that evening. You do have to register. So there's the disclaimers. I'm going to call it a spring game because it's easier. But when you get closer and closer to the spring game, now I think is the time when SMU is going to obviously kind of smell that blood in the water, so to speak, to get through spring without any more injuries. And Rhett Lashley met with the media on Friday and updated us on some key roster moves as well as some injuries. So let's run those down first before we get into our freshman class breakdown as we talk about the guys who are already on campus and then look ahead to the guys who do arrive on campus this summer, because that's important too when you talk about depth charts, when you talk about breaking down positions and things like that. All right, SMU did announce formally that a few players are no longer with the program. Of course, among those, Tyler Aronson, the quarterback signee in the 2024 class. He has not been with them at all this spring. He announced through his agents that he was going to be entering the portal. So his time for the portal is coming up here in just a couple days when the transfer portal window opens on April 16th. So that is, yes, April 16th, and then it closes April 25th. So it'll be a flurry of activity for schools watching the portal during that time, seeing who enters. But Tyler Aronson is going to finally get to do that. Running back LJ Johnson, this one is probably the surprise for kind of some of the, maybe people that just aren't dialed in day to day. But so the story with LJ is that SMU wanted him to come back for the spring and say, hey, look, we like you. We like what you bring to the table. There's never been an issue with LJ off the field. He's always handled his business. But they also knew that he's somebody that has been nicked up. He's not necessarily looked like this difference maker that they were kind of hoping he would be, of course. And so you fast forward, and he is leaving the team, moving on now, and going to pursue a bigger role elsewhere. Chris Johnson Jr. and Derek McFall have looked the part from day one of spring ball. I think LJ maybe was out there 2 or 3 days of spring before deciding, you know what, I am going to go test my luck somewhere else and finding another spot to land, because he was down the depth chart. So wish nothing but the best for LJ for sure, as well as Tyler and a couple of these other guys as they move on. But yeah, LJ, there was a lot of buzz that he was, after last year, it was out the door immediately in that December portal window. And they said, look, come back, compete, see how it goes, and we'll be up front and honest with you about where you are. And it was quickly apparent. And if you were out there those first couple of days, it's not a huge thing, but you could tell the explosiveness and what Chris Johnson Jr. and what Derek McFall can do compared to what LJ can do is a little different. And we saw what happens when you have an explosive running back there last year. So SMU's hoping to catch fire with Derek McFall, Chris Johnson Jr., Jermico Green comes in this summer. Talk about him in just a moment. But LJ Johnson, going to move on. He's going to fill a role for somebody. I don't know if there is a truly injury beaten down running back room that he can go into at a group of 5 level and start or be 1A, 1B type of situation. But hope the best for him. He was always good to us, and he is moving on. So it is a thin running back room. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And then Reagan Gill, offensive lineman who signed a couple years ago. I think he saw action in one game, maybe 1 or 2, but hasn't been really with the team in a minute. So he's moving on. I hope that I don't think he would have been able to graduate, but he's moving on. Alex Rogers is moving on. He was a part of the 2024 signing class. Alex, I kind of thought there was a chance that maybe he would not emerge this year, but maybe find a way to, contribute or anything like that. But he was an interesting take when they took him. I mean, I think he was kind of a product, maybe in a sense, of the move to the ACC kind of happening in 2023, right before the the AAC season, and I think Alex would have been committed by then because he would have signed and then arrived. Yeah, so I thought he was a decent take for the AAC, and he actually looked better on the field than maybe I even thought he was going to. But he's going to have a better opportunity to go elsewhere and play. So he is moving on. And then in kind of a career-ending, from what it sounds like, situation, and really unfortunate, Caleb Johnson, the former Notre Dame transfer, he was a highly touted prospect coming out of high school. Rhett Lashley announced that he tore. He didn't say tore his Achilles, but he had an Achilles injury in winter workouts, which sounds like, you know, I would imagine it's torn if it's keeping him out for the rest of the season already. And so that ends his career. He was going to come back and give it another go, but I think now he'll just rehab and go into the workforce. I mean, talk about a player that, this is the thing with the offensive line. And we saw this, I think, when they take guys like Paris Patterson and Kayshawn Sapp, who are kind of down on the depth chart right now and potentially going to get passed up by some younger players already. But if you need depth and you need guys to contribute in helping the offensive line, have that depth, Caleb Johnson is the type of guy that you would want. I, again, never heard a bad thing about him. It just wasn't there. And you could kind of see that, I feel like, early in that spring when SMU got him, that he was going to be a depth piece. But awesome guy, taking advantage of 2 great degrees. So best of luck to him. That was tough. You're going to come back and give it a go in the spring and see where you stand on the depth chart and maybe be on the roster a full another year. And you kind of only just have to stay healthy, and they're going to be, happy, so to speak, with, you being in their organization. And he tears his Achilles. I just feel for him. Those injuries suck. So hopefully he bounces back soon, but he's going to do very, very well off the field. He's a great guy. All right. Tight end Matthew Hibner. This is a big one. He hasn't been out at practice, and he was injured, but is injured, but I hadn't heard anything that was like, oh crap, SMU all of a sudden is going to have RJ Maryland coming off of a torn ACL that he's still recovering from, doing well with, but then you're going to have Matthew Hibner hurt. Rhett said he has a minor tendonitis type of thing, and so they just shut him down. I mean, they don't need to see anything more from Matthew Hibner. I mean, he can go. So the goal is for him to be ready for summer and get back to working out. Jonathan Jefferson, the big defensive tackle who got hurt early in spring. This is the big one. Rhett Lashley said, and this is something to keep an eye on. Rhett said that they're trying to decide the best course of action, at least as of Friday when he met with us. And the timing could mean that he might miss the start of the season. So they're trying to figure out if he needs surgery or not. And the doctors are working through that. So just keep an eye on that. SMU was already going to go after, I would say, 2 defensive tackles in the transfer portal, try to do that this spring. And so we'll see if that changes. I don't think it will. I think they'll still go for 2. I mean, that they want that depth. They want that help. So we'll see how things go with Jonathan Jefferson and his recovery. But that was the big one. That's the one that, they're keeping a close eye on, and it's, probably making Tibbs lose just a touch of sleep over the course of the next couple months, not having Uno out there. But the other final piece of injury news that I think that there were guys that, like RJ Maryland recovering from injury, Marcellus Barnes recovering from injury, Jamarje Lewis still injured, recovering from injury. Those were already there entering spring. The one that really wasn't reported on, but Jaden Milner-Jones has been out. Somebody mentioned to me what he was dealing with, but he's okay, or going to be okay. I think he'll be back this summer. He should be fine for the start of fall camp. Forgot what it was, but he did get hurt and got hurt in winter workouts. So is bouncing back from that. So yeah, that is about it on the roster news front for SMU. So that should get you guys all caught up before the transfer portal, as far as what to keep an eye on if you see guys enter SMU with their, I think, 3 players, their 3 players were never going to be just that group of 3. There was going to be some attrition. It was just natural. So before we move on to kind of a freshman spotlight piece, do you want to remind you guys as well about our friends at Mignon. Mignon is perfect for Easter Sunday, whether you want to do brunch or whether you want to do dinner. You can give them a call to make a reservation or go to Open Table to line up your Easter Sunday plans. What a spread. What a brunch. That'll be $10 cocktails. And the Easter brunch, I had the email this morning. I believe they have a special Easter brunch menu as well. So make sure you guys check that out. And honestly, it's worth it. $59.95 per person, 3-course meal on Easter brunch. So they'll have the full menu for dinner. So make sure you swing by Mignon right in Plano, just south of HEB. It is a really easy restaurant to get to. You can just hop off North Tollway and be there in 5 minutes from there. So definitely check out Mignon, SMU owned, with Nick Natur and his family. Appreciate their support of the On the Pony Express podcast. All right, freshman report time. This is I'm not going to do a formal report card because honestly, I don't believe in grading these true freshmen that are having their lives turned upside down, having to learn a new defense or an offense and learn their class schedule and all of those things. They've got enough on their plate. They certainly have really impressed, though, the ones that are on campus, in my opinion. So we'll break them down bit by bit. I think the big thing for me is that the freshman wide receivers have at least looked the part. They look like they are going to be able to contribute in some form or fashion when it comes to this football team. And how they do that might not look like being thrown to the wolves as starters. I don't think that at this point. Jordan Hudson and Romello Brinson have had really nice springs, especially Jordan Hudson. I think he's really showed out well. But with Jalen Cooper, I think the biggest thing for Jalen Cooper, and it's exactly what we saw as a prospect coming out of high school and what made him one of the top wide receivers in the country, is his ability to understand zones, ability to find those, to sit down and pick those apart so that he can really be somebody that can be leaned on by his quarterback and a reliable pass catcher, somebody that catches the football incredibly well and is really smooth with it. That's what Jalen Cooper brings to the table for SMU is that kind of high volume pass catcher who's going to be able to pick up first downs, keep the chains moving. I think that's what he's really brought to the table and done it well in spring. And that's why I think he's maybe a little bit more ahead in terms of early playing time than a Dalen Singleton. And part of that is just because I think the roles and the styles are night and day different, right? Like Dalen Singleton, a straight line, elite 100-meter time, has the wheels to blow by just about anybody on this football team. And that's why he's playing on the outside. They wanted that jolt of speed to be brought to the table on the outside. And he's brought that, but it's a position that it's hard to grade probably if you're Rob Likens, because you're watching the film and you're like, oh, good job, Dalen Singleton. You blew by that guy. You got open. But how many times are you dropping deep balls all day in spring ball to really get a look of, okay, how is he when the ball is contested? How is he in terms of just his consistency catching the ball at this level? Those are all things that if SMU wants to make this bet on these two receivers, these two freshman receivers, to play on the outside and to play right away and play a lot, and that's where you're kind of pushing your chips in on Link Rhodes. You figure out if he's slot, if he's outside, whatever. But if you're pushing your chips in on those guys, you're going to have to play them in games to really see. Wide receiver is a position that, in my opinion, you got to throw these guys to the wolves. You have to let them go and say, all right, we're going to give you your shot, and we're going to see if when the ball comes your way, you make plays. Because I've covered my fair share of elite receivers. I've covered Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Terrace Marshall, DJ Chark, um, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. I mean, those guys down there at LSU, all of those guys didn't really do much as freshmen, as true freshmen. Like I think Jamar had maybe like 200 yards receiving or something like that. Now scheme matters and all of that, but they were playing all of those guys a lot. And then when you look at what SMU is going to do, they're going to have Jordan Hudson, they're going to have Romello Brinson. If Jalen Cooper and if Dalen Singleton had around the 200-yard mark, you'd probably feel pretty good about it, because that might mean that Jordan Hudson and Romello Brinson are, around that 500, 600, 700-yard mark. That's just how the wide receiver position has kind of gone for SMU the last couple of years, with all the rotating, with the group that they've had. And as much as you'd hope that Jordan Hudson, maybe Romello Brinson becomes that go-to guy. SMU's leading receiver last year was Roderick Daniels with 663 yards. Keyshawn Smith second with 527. Jordan Hudson 422. The goal is, I think you need a Jordan Hudson to emerge as the dude. I just think that has to happen. And however that happens is not necessarily up to me. It's up to Rob Likens and the staff. But when you look at these freshman wide receivers, they bring so much different to the table. We're going to see in the fall if they are ready for the limelight and if they can make it happen. And if they do, look out, because SMU is going to be, coming into some really impactful playmaking ability at the wide receiver position if those guys can get it done. So I think the two freshman receivers have fit in very well. They're wired the right way. They're doing all the right things. So really been impressed with them. Before we move on to quarterback Ty Hawkins, do want to remind you guys about the Thomas Promise. Head up 75 McKinney, Ford, Subaru, Volkswagen dealerships and visit the Thomas Auto Group and get employee pricing on new and pre-owned vehicles when you mention On the Pony Express. Get that new car, or pre-owned, but get that new vehicle in your family in time for summer trips, summer vacations, and get yourself hooked up with maybe that new Ford Expedition. Beautiful vehicle. That's actually what I grew up in. My parents had one, and we took it on long road trips. Very reliable vehicle. So they rolled through a couple of those with football pads in the back and suitcases in the summer. So check out the Thomas Auto Group today and learn more about the Thomas Promise.
At Thomas Auto Group, the Thomas Promise includes the low price promise,
the pre-owned promise,
and the 72-hour exchange promise.
And finally, the 100% customer satisfaction promise. So shop Thomas Auto Group today, home of the Thomas Promise.
All right. Wrapped up talking about the freshman wide receivers and the guy throwing the football around, Ty Hawkins, 4-star quarterback coming out of IMG Academy. And I'll tell you something that has really impressed me overall is you have a quarterback that kind of came in a little less fanfare than maybe you would have thought after flipping from TCU, and he had the 4-star ranking and all of that, and he didn't have the senior season he probably would have liked to at IMG. But I think he's really thrown the football very, very well. I mean, if there's one thing that I think Ty Hawkins can do is get the football to his playmakers, because he's got that zip on the ball, because he has that ability to put it in so many different windows, because he's got the arm strength. There are some things with Ty Hawkins that I think he still very much needs to learn, and he will, in my opinion, he will. I think you can generally see early on with quarterbacks how comfortable they're going to end up being at the college level with the speed of the game. And make no mistake, the defensive line is still very much good at getting after the quarterback in practice, and they get a lot of reps. They do a lot of live team reps. So with Ty Hawkins, he's faced some pressure. He's faced some times where you can tell that, the pressure is just right there, and young quarterback, he just does it in the dirt, which is great. You'll take that 10 times out of 10, but you can tell sometimes when that pressure quickly closes in on him, he's like, all right, wow, this is fast. So he's learning, he's processing. But if you go out there and watch him, he can wheel around out there. He can run the football. He really has shown off the wheels a good bit. When something isn't there, he's tucked in a run. the biggest thing for him will be continuing to develop decision making as the game slows down for him. And I can tell you this, though, his arm strength and arm talent has really stood out to me. And I said this when he was coming out of high school. I said, look, you can see all of the things that need to be refined in his game, and there's still a lot of that. And those can be cause for concern. You could look at what he did at IMG and probably be like, man, that's just, not a great senior year, which for quarterbacks, the senior season is the biggest thing. It's the biggest indicator of success. There's there's outliers, not consistent trends of guys way outperforming what they did as seniors in high school. I mean, most of these guys who end up becoming elite quarterbacks had senior seasons that were worth writing home about. They were all state. They were almost all Americans, if not. I mean, they were high level players. Ty Hawkins didn't have that. So he's kind of working against that. But the big thing for Ty is the fit in this offense. And it is just perfect. Rhett Lashley, you've seen what he can do with Kevin Jennings. You've seen what Keldrick Luster can do in this offense in practice if you've been out there. And you see why he is listed as the backup right now. And for Keldrick, I think it's really something where this has been good opportunity for him to be pushed by Ty Hawkins. And now I think the goal is to redshirt Ty. I don't think there's any doubt about that. That's the general plan. And then really you can look at next year and see Keldrick and Ty really battle it out for the backup spot if Kevin Jennings is back. Maybe Kevin Jennings has an insane season this year and decides to go pro. Then you have Tyler Van Dyke, Keldrick Luster, and Ty Hawkins ready to go. So we'll see, obviously, long-term what it looks like. But Ty Hawkins is really impressed. I generally had low expectations for him coming into spring, not saying that he's not going to pan out, but just that it would be such an adjustment that you wouldn't be able to see some of these flashes. And boy, he really looked the part. So good on Ty Hawkins. We go to the defensive side of the ball, or actually we got one more offensive side of the ball, I should say. And that's Drew Hill, who has come in from Corona Centennial, California. And we actually have two more on the offense side. But Drew Hill has come in and been, just a complete sponge. And Garen Justice talked about him and his mind for the game and how hard he works at it. And I think he's fit in really, really well with the culture of the room. That's something big that Drew talked about when it came to his decision-making process for SMU is just the culture that Garen Justice has had in that room. Drew Hill's really fit in well. And he, I think, is still learning a little bit that speed of that game and maybe being a little bit more patient in one-on-ones with pass rush drills. But I think he's flashed a little bit as well. Offensive line is such a process for these players to be developed and to commit to that development timeline. Most players are not stepping in there on day one and starting Hayden Howerton. And there's been others, of course, but they do normally go on that longer track of development. And that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. But Drew Hill, somebody who will ultimately redshirt, I would say, as will Sione Mao. He's from Auckland, New Zealand. He is the under the radar, nobody knows about him story of spring, in the sense that he was just kind of announced. Well, he's 6'6", 370, wears it really, really well. Just a monster of a man. He is going to be a multi-year project, but if it pans out, oh my gosh, look out, because he has some real strength to him that is grown man strength. I think Garen Justice said he's at least 21. I mean, he's a man already coming in. So, all right, let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball, and let's start with the defensive line. Jalen Shivers has come in and I think been somebody that has flashed in actually pass rush drills a little bit more than I've kind of expected. Just sometimes with young defensive linemen, the skill set of hands and the skill set of swiping and all of those things can be a little bit of a piece that is developed slowly. But he comes in and I think has really shown that he'll at least look the part. He needs to fill out his jersey. He needs to go to the weight room and really live there. And I think that's what he'll do this summer, and he'll really buy in. He's been somebody that, I think has fit the culture of what they want to do in terms of players that they have, in that defensive line room, kind of building that long-term culture. So he's been good. He just needs to get bigger. I mean, he'll just have to pack on weight, and he'll grow into it, and he'll have a chance to be a good one. I think his twitch, his athleticism has been really nice to see. When you look at the linebacker room, Kyle Firm, the junior college linebacker, I have not seen him out there, so I don't know if there's something there to watch with medical or anything like that, but we'll follow up and get something on him. Mark Villasana has looked the part. If you watch Maurice Crumb's interview on our channel, he's really just kind of caught the eye physically of coaches. He's wearing that number 24 out there. I mean, he looks like he's been in a college weight room for a year. He's still got to develop. He's still learning. His mind is probably swimming, but I think the biggest thing is that physically he looks like he's going to be able to hold up really well when it comes to his overall game and kind of what he can do long term. So I've been encouraged by what I've seen from Mark Villasana. We just don't get necessarily like too many snaps to see those like freshmen really shine. I mean, they are still working in a lot of the vets and getting them ready and things like that, especially the new faces. But Mark Villasana has really, I think, shown that he should, in my opinion, maybe see times on special teams. I think that would be a great way to get him into the game and into the college world pretty quickly and kind of develop him. So before we move to the special team or the secondary, do want to remind you guys about Status Jet. I'm wearing the pullover right now. StatusJet.com. Plan your summer vacation right now. Reach out to them for a discount on your round trip flight by mentioning On the Pony Express or code PonyUp ACC. StatusJet.com. They're proud supporters of SMU Athletics and the On the Pony Express podcast. They'll put together a flight and a trip of a lifetime for you. So reach out to them today. All right, finishing up here on our freshman showcase or spring report, however you want to do it, with Javion Holiday. Jay Holly is what they call him. The cornerback from Duncanville has come in, and I think he's going to need a year in the weight room. I mean, I just think his lower body, in terms of the strength needed to compete with some of these bigger body wide receivers that are out there consistently in this league. I mean, we saw last year. I mean, this is a no-joke league when it comes to wide receivers. And I think Jay Holly just is going to have to get in the weight room and be stronger. But the biggest thing with him, he is polished. Like, I think with Javion Holiday, he's played a lot of high-level football for a long time. He understands advanced schemes. He understands what SMU is asking of him, and he's going to be somebody that long-term is going to have that size, that length, that is going to turn into a multi-year starter for SMU. But right now, I think he just needs to obviously continue to eat his Wheaties and spend time in the Gary Weber End Zone Complex and the Armstrong Wellness Center and lift some weights, pack on the weight, and be ready for fall camp, because that's going to help him so much just from a size perspective. And getting older helps with that. It's no secret that those guys just need time in the weight room and time to add mass onto their frame. And then you kind of move inside and you move to Lamadrick Spencer. And look, Dean Rolski, who did our practice, reported on the ponyexpress.com on for Friday's practice. And by the way, that was probably our last look at the Mustangs this spring. They're closing it down with the transfer portal coming. They don't necessarily want more video of guys out there and things like that. But Kyron Chambers has really made an impact on the defense at the nickelback position, but Lamadrick Spencer is still in there, still battling, and he's been impressive from a physicality perspective. He is not going to back down from anyone, and that's really important, because so much of the time, I think, when you go out to practice and you see some of these players develop or when you go out to practice and you see them develop, I think, habits of catching opposing players, ball carriers, that's a red flag. I think SMU's done a much better job of maybe some in the past of having guys that love to hit, love to be physical. I mean, you look at, a guy like Jalen Moses off last year's signing class, undersized, but can bring it. Ahmad Moses a couple years ago, undersized, but can bring it. They've really done a good job of finding those hard-nosed players. And I think Lamadric Spencer, in terms of the future of this secondary, is probably one of the hardest nosed guys you're going to find. I mean, he just has a tendency to be really physical and find the contact with opposing ball carriers, and it's really impressive to watch. He's still got to continue to learn the defense and do all those things, but man, he eats, breathes, sleeps football. I mean, he's all about it. Another Duncanville standout there who ended up at junior college and then ended up with SMU. When you look at Tyron Polley and what he has for the secondary that SMU has, I think he's got a chance to play early. He's got a chance to be that player that can step into the lineup and be, I think, a consistent rotational guy. I know that's high praise, and I know maybe that's impacted some by Jaden Milner-Jones being hurt, but he just has the physical edge that you really like. And right now, he already kind of looks like he's got enough like size and strength to be a contributor, to be somebody that can make plays for this SMU defense. And he really thinks the game so well. And that's something that Scott Simons really liked about him a lot when he was going through his recruitment, is just how mature he was, how really focused on the mental side of things whenever he came over on visits and things like that. And so Tyron Polley has really made a positive impact early on campus. And then Nolan Atkins is an early enrollee at long snapper. He's going to be behind Morgan Tribbett, but he's there as the long snapper. So can't say that, SMU is going to end up hitting on all of these guys. But I think in terms of impressions, we're seeing good ones early on for the most part. So we'll see then how much they grow in terms of getting ready for fall camp. That'll be what's next for these guys. So look, there's a lot of new faces coming in this summer as well. I think in terms of kind of rounding out this freshman kind of highlight piece or podcast, I should say, that we're talking about here is who can impact the opposing, or who can impact this team positively and do it at a high level. And I think there's probably a handful of them that can, because of the need. You look at Dramad Odoms. I think he's going to come in as the highest rated recruit in this class and be right there as the backup left tackle. He arrives this summer. He has the physicality. He has the size. It's getting it all in the right positioning to make it happen for him, I think, overall. And how much does the speed of the game, take him a minute to adjust? Because we saw him at the All-American Bowl in San Antonio, a really impressive player who can put it together and really show up to a high level of competition and be ready for it. And he's really been somebody that they are raving about. And the same goes on the interior of the offensive line for Abel Hoopy. I think that's intriguing that they continue to talk him up, the freshman, soon to be freshman from Hawaii. And they've really just been talking him up as somebody that can play early. And that would be at right guard. That would be one of the bigger developments we've seen. And there's still a long way to go to getting there, but they just continue to talk him up. They'll have some other guys come in on the offensive line as well, but that has been consistent. Dramad Odoms and Abel Hoopy. And Rhett Lashley, I think, mentioned him again on Friday. So really high praise for him as well. And then I think the freshman out of all the freshmen that has a chance to play the most, Jermico Green, the 4-star running back out of Conroe, Texas. If he gets up to SMU, settles into school well, takes care of his business, gets ready in the weight room, he's going to have a big role. He's going to have a big role fast, because you look at the depth of this room. They need to address it in the transfer portal, but you can't discount the talent level that Jermico Green has. And sometimes when you're in this position, he's going to need his game reps to try and see if he can be the guy early on, because SMU has shown that they need a guy. They need somebody to make a positive impact at the running back position and making it a big way rather than being a group of by committee that isn't necessarily an elite player. SMU's at its best when it has an elite running back. We've seen that with Rhett Lashley when Xavier Jones was here, saw it with Brashard Smith. They get somebody at the running back position that can be elite. Really, really important that Jermico Green does that and steps up. So keep an eye on him for sure. And then I would say Zayden Gentry is another one. Of course, Link Rhodes is a junior college edition at the wide receiver spot. They're going to play him a lot as long as he figures things out. But then I think Zay Gentry is, as you look at the cornerback room, Zay's got a little bit more size, in my opinion, like just kind of seeing him. So I do wonder if he's going to emerge as somebody that maybe gets some more snaps as a freshman compared to Jay Holly, but we'll see. It's all about how you pick up the defense and do all of that. Zay Gentry has been out a couple spring balls and watching very closely with Ricky Hundley. So he's trying to pick things up, trying to get things ready to go. And at the corner position, SMU needs somebody to step up with Deuce Harmon, Marcellus Barnes. You've got Jalen Davis-Robinson back. You've got A.J. Davis back. You've got Speedy Nettles back. You've got some depth there. But I think they are at the point where, you need somebody to step up. And if that means starting somebody's clock quicker as far as starting and playing a lot and they deserve it, it could be Zay Gentry. It could be Javion Holiday. But at corner, they need guys to step up. And it's a big, big question to this defense's success for this upcoming season is who does step up at corner and how do they raise their level of play? And if they do raise their level of play, it's going to be really helpful to that defensive line and that group as a whole. So with that, guys, do want to remind you guys as well about our friends at Rhoback. Make sure you get the SMU line. It is spring. The weather is beautiful. Make sure you have a great fresh polo ready to go with our friends at Rhoback, hooking it up. You can use code PONY20 for 20% off your order at rhoback.com. It's first-time customers only. But Rhoback has that breathable fabric that you just love. There's free returns, free exchanges, and then free shipping on $150 or more on your orders. So if you get to $150, you get that 20% off. You get the free shipping. It's all good. So make sure you go to their website, rhoback.com. Check out Rhoback today. They're just the best. They bring it all the time on that gear there, especially the SMU gear. Make sure you reach out to Mark Villasana as well, 214-352-5656. That's Northwest Insurance Agencies. We'll have some media availabilities with the coaches this week as well, I believe, for SMU. But practice reports are dying down, so we'll be digging around for little insider nuggets for you guys at ontheponyexpress.com. So make sure you head over there and get all the scoop on the Mustangs, and we will have you covered. So appreciate all of our sponsors. Welcome Manny's Tex-Mex to the family. Again, Queso for 10% off. Thanks to everybody for listening, and we will catch you next time on another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on3 and on Instagram at on3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.